Hello and welcome to The Geeks Review. I'm Royce. Joshua is away this week, but we'll be hearing his reviews of the new film, Matrix Resurrections, the South Park post-COVID special, and the book of Boba Fett. I'll also be delving into the history of the character to try and explain how he ended up with his own show. But first, here's Joshua's review of The Matrix Resurrections.
Hello and welcome to The Geeks Review. I'm Joshua, and I was very lucky to be able to go and catch Matrix Resurrections, the fourth installment of the, formerly Matrix trilogy done by the Wachowski siblings. Now, the fourth installment, Resurrections, is being directed by Lana Wachowski. The film has a lot to go for. It's trying to shoot for the moon and still try and deliver some kind of satisfaction that we are all sort of hoping for. And it's hard to go without, going into way heavy spoiler territory, so why don't I just take it from the top? Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss are back as their respective roles from the original trilogy, Neo and Trinity. It seems that Neo, after the end of The Matrix 3, is somehow still, back in the Matrix. He has returned to the life of Thomas Anderson, and is, seeing therapy by new character, the therapist being played by Neil Patrick Harris. And it seems that vested newcomers, Bugs and her crew, Bugs being played by Jessica Henwick, have a vested interest of trying to bring Neo back to the real world, but is he willing to actually return? Yeah. That's all I can really say. It's definitely the anti-sequel sequel. When you think something's going to happen, and then you think they're going to give you the middle finger, they zig when you think they're going to zag, and then they zag while zigging. They're not trying to have their cake and eat it too. That's definitely one thing that I've noticed, but they are definitely trying to evolve the story of the Matrix, and it doesn't seem like... they're trying to evolve the story, but they're also trying to harken back. Even the film acknowledges, making a sequel to the Matrix? How is that even possible? It's such a huge shadow to overcome. And they debate, and it is debate on, what is the Matrix? Is it bullet time? Is it that little thing in the back of your head that just makes you go, ooh? Or is it the philosophy, the droning on and 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 on about philosophy? But it's definitely an interesting film. They really have, they've done great. Would I say, is this a film for everyone? Probably not, which is unfortunate. But it really does kind of bank on you having seen the previous Matrix films while also trying to cover the bases of what the previous Matrix films were. And that is, I'm not really overly sure how to feel about that. Don't get me wrong. It's a bit hard to explain. It's one of those films where I would say full-heartedly go and check it out for yourself, because words cannot do it justice. Nor can we even begin to explain how the thing's doing this. I would say go and give it a watch, if possible. It is now currently streaming on HBO Max, or Binge in Australia, and is also in theatres. Give it a watch if you got the time.
Do you think a film should be accessible to all audiences, even if it's a sequel or later installment in a series? As we discussed on the show last week with the newest Spider-Man movie, it's not only the third part of this Spider-Man series, it's the 9th solo film for the hero, the 9th installment in the Marvel movie and TV series this year, and the 20th film in that Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. That was a difficult film to recommend to a general audience. I think if you're a first-time viewer, you could go in and understand the context and have a good time, while it's also very rewarding for fans who've been watching since Tobey Maguire in 2002. But as for The Matrix, a film that revolutionized special effects, storytelling in mainstream cinema, and a film that still holds up now for the most part, technology has improved and expanded in just the last 5 years, let alone 22 since that film came out. What does a film have to do now to stand out from the several others which are playing in the cinemas at the same time? Is it worth watching 3 previous movies, or 9, or 26, just to understand one? We have the Facebook page, it's The Geeks Review on City Park Radio. Drop us a comment there if you'd like to, and we might read it out on the show. Who knows? Here's Josh's review of the South Park post-COVID special.
South Park. It is a long-running show that has really stood the test of time. It's been going since the 90s. Matt Stone and Trey Parker first started with Santa versus versus Jesus versus Frosty the Snowman, and now coming into its 27th season. Oh my god. With one movie and half a dozen direct-to-TV movies, mini movies, or as this one is now being called, the post-COVID exclusive event. And that is right, Matt Stone and Trey Parker are back with the first of what is going to be many TV movie South Park episodes after signing a super lucrative deal with Paramount. This one being South Park, the post-COVID special. I've been waiting months, and I mean months, to try and be able to see this in Australia, and oh boy, there's been a lot of hurdles to try and get to this. The premise of the post-COVID special is, well, it's post-COVID. We did it. Instead of dealing with the boys as we normally see them, Kyle, Stan, and Kenny, and Cartman are all grown up. The boys are adults now, hearkening to such recent things as, It, Stranger Things, and a lot, and I mean a lot, of Blade Runner. Oh my god. The amount of Blade Runner and Back to the Future in this is staggering. What is it about? Kenny is dead for real this time, apparently, and has become quite the successful scientist, somewhat of a scientist himself. Kenny has been spending years trying to find out the source of the COVID outbreak. Meanwhile, Stan has sort of become his father, his own worst enemy. Kyle has become an online counselor, kind of like Mr. Mackey. And Cartman, of all people, has become a rabbi. He's converted to Judaism and has a loving wife and 3 kids. This is crazy. This is Eric Cartman, the kid who fed another child, his own parents, over $14. You can't make this stuff up. It's an hour long, and there's a lot to take in. You've got well-known characters returning. Randy, aged up and now living in a retirement home. Most of the kids that we knew at South Park Elementary have grown up and have really either gotten on with their lives or just sort of kind of stayed the same. It's good to see that Craig and Tweek are still together. That's just, poor little nervous guy. So what's the conflict? The conflict is apparent that somehow Kenny has died of a new COVID variant. And now the town is in lockdown due to one individual who has refused to get vaccinated out of the belief that if someone had been handled shellfish before, working on the vaccine, there could be traces of selfishness left in the remnants, and they are deathly allergic to shellfish. And it just goes from there. Oh, brother. This is a interesting one. Currently, I can only point to a handful of things for where the South Park post-COVID special is. If you're able to try and see it, or if you do want to go and see it yourself, it is available on Paramount Plus, the Paramount streaming service. I know, so many streaming services. Ugh. Other than that, fingers crossed that it comes to TV eventually. Give it a look. If not, it's probably out there somewhere.
Boba Fett was created for The Empire Strikes Back, the 1980 sequel to Star Wars. Originally envisaged as one of many white-armoured jetpack-wearing super troopers, serving alongside stormtroopers, he was reinvented into the bounty hunter in the Empire's employ. While often credited as first appearing in the much-maligned Star Wars holiday special, he first made his appearance at the San Anselmo Country Fair in September 1978, marching alongside Darth Vader in dented green armour very similar to what he ended up with.
I am Boba Fett. The ship you seek is nearby.
When he appeared in the animated section of the holiday special, which is available to watch remastered on Disney+, the blue and yellow armoured Fett introduced himself to the heroes before being revealed as a bounty hunter working for Darth Vader. While definitely a villain, Boba Fett wasn't evil, just a simple man trying to make his way in the universe. In the lead-up to the Empire's release, Boba Fett mania was going wild thanks in no small part to toy maker Kenner, who are offering a spring-loaded missile-firing Boba Fett action figure available with 4 proofs of purchase. When the figure arrived to kids, the missile was fused in place. A choking incident with a similar missile-firing toy the year before had led to Kenner deciding to remove the feature, but a legend was born. Anyone claiming to have owned one of those missile-firing Fetts was either lying, misremembering, or most generously, was a child of one of the Kenner employees who brought one of the prototypes home. Fett was played in Empire by Jeremy Bulloch and voiced by Jason Wingreen.
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me.
And while his role was small, he quickly proved himself as a dangerous foe, tracking the Falcon, capturing Han Solo, but perhaps most impressive, a subtle and sudden head turn as he hears Luke hiding from afar while walking down a corridor. Piloting away in his ship, Slave One, with Solo's frozen body in the cargo hold, fans were kept waiting 3 long years to learn of Han's fate and see what Boba Fett would do next. And what he did next was die, tumbling A over T into the hungry maw of the disgusting Sarlacc creature after briefly jetpacking to attack Luke, getting his blaster cut in half, and being knocked down by a blinded and unawares Han Solo. Was Boba Fett any good? Most generously, you could say in that moment he was drunk or tired. Perhaps it was someone else in the armour, but a lot of people started to think Fett was just a bumbling fool who lucked his way into his position as the galaxy's greatest bounty hunter. With the ending of the original films and the expansion of the expanded universe, a talented team of creatives began exploring the rest of the Star Wars galaxy, and Boba Fett was a firm favourite. Hundreds of stories were crafted for the character over the decades, trying to make up for the letdown of his final movie appearance, but a lot of it felt try-hard and tacky, such as scenes where Fett single-handedly defeated Darth Vader in combat, and blasting his way from the Sarlacc's maw in a blaze of glory. Fett exemplifies a style-over-substance template that exists for many characters like Darth Maul and Captain Phasma. Cool, visually striking, but with little input to their story, and their credentials and characters established by extended media. Despite the freedoms open to the writers of these stories, Fett's origin was mostly kept secret until 2002's Attack of the Clones. It was here we met the Mandalorian bounty hunter Django Fett, played by New Zealand actor Temuera Morrison, of Once Were Warriors and Shortland Street fame. Django was revealed to be the genetic template of the Clone Trooper army, enhanced super soldiers with accelerated aging, and the precursors to the Stormtroopers. It was also revealed he requested an unaltered, regular aging clone of himself to adopt as a son, named Boba, played by Daniel Logan. Morrison re-recorded Boba's lines for the 2004 re-release of the original Star Wars movies.
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me.
Cementing his place in the canon, and continuing to voice Fett in animations and video games for years to come.
You're more used to me dead.
You got a problem with that? My name's Boba. I see you've already met Bosk and Lance.
Logan reprised his role as a young Boba, learning the bounty hunter ropes in the animated series The Clone Wars, while all the clones in Temuera's image were established as proper characters, voiced by D. Bradley Baker. The sequel series, The Bad Batch, released in 2021, introduced a new unaltered female clone, effectively Boba's twin sister, called Omega, who was voiced by New Zealand actress Michelle Ang from Fear the Walking Dead, as well as Neighbours some 20 years ago.
My name's Omega. I was wondering when you guys would come back.
You know who we are?
Hunter, Echo, Tech, Wrecker, and Crosshair. You're Clone Force 99.
After Disney bought the rights to Star Wars and set about planning new films to develop, one on the cards was a Boba Fett film directed by Chronicle's Josh Trank, only for that to fall through. Instead, we got the series The Mandalorian, starring Pedro Pascal from Game of Thrones as the character visually inspired by Boba Fett, an entire culture and complicated history for the Mandalorian people, having been constructed based off Fett's enduring fan popularity. It was a surprise when Series 2 of The Mandalorian saw Temuera Morrison return, this time as Boba, several years after his supposed death in the Sarlacc. His armour scavenged by Jawas and worn for a time by Marshal Cobb Vanth, played by Timothy Oliphant from Justified and Santa Clarita Diet. Fett reclaimed his armour and sets forth into his own series, joined by fellow bounty hunter Fennec Shand, played by Ming-Na Wen from Mulan and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., who previously appeared in The Bad Batch trying to capture his twin sister. Will that fact come up in the series? There's 6 episodes left, so it's possible. In other media, Fett has recently appeared within the pages of Marvel Comics' Star Wars series, going up against Princess Leia, Darth Vader, and the crime lord Kira, a character played by Game of Thrones' Emilia Clarke in the Han Solo movie a few years ago. And with rumours flying around, she could be appearing in this live-action series.
At last, after nearly over a year of waiting since Mandalorian Season 2 concluded, Temuera Morrison is back as the titular Boba Fett in the first episode of the Book of Boba Fett. This has been a series long anticipated since the return of the bounty hunter in The Mandalorian Season 2. Since his first appearance at the end of Episode 1 of Season 2, The Marshal, to his return in the episode The Tragedy, and his frequent back and forth. It's been a long time since Boba Fett has really been the focus of any particular thing before The Mandalorian had the character reappear after his untimely apparent demise. First episode is directed by Robert Rodriguez,
the director of Spy Kids and Sin City, weirdly.
And it is phenomenal. A dual timeline story showing us Boba's survival, his adventures across the sands of Tatooine, and his trying to adapt as what they're calling the new daimyo of Mos Espa. It seems that not many are interested in Fett's new rule of what's left of Jabba's criminal empire, but those that are, know the rules. Pay tribute, and they won't perish. Though it seems he's not a man to rule with fear. The episode really seemed to focus more on the survival, how he escaped the Sarlacc pit, giving the character a very Conan the Barbarian-esque, new origin story, as compared to his Conan the Barbarian-like scene at the end of the credits at the end of The Mandalorian. I was blown away by the amount that they were trying to do. It is a slow burn. It is a slow burner of an episode, but the prosthetics are just phenomenal. Well, when it comes to the prosthetics of the Gamorreans and the Twi'leks that appear. Other than that, the costume design is phenomenal, and it sort of links up certain things. It answers lingering questions of when did the Jawas manage to take his armor and then sell it off to Cobb Vanth? All these are shown really Boba's survival and evolution into the man he is now are shown in flashbacks, while the episode itself starts with him in a bacta tank, going as far back as remembering his time on Kamino, and to his father's untimely demise at the hands of Mace Windu in the arena in Geonosis at the start of the Clone Wars. I personally cannot wait to see what the new triumvirate of David Filoni, Rodriguez, and Favreau can deliver us when it comes to this bounty hunter. I look forward to seeing really just where the story's going to go, what the conflict is going to be, and delving more into what I can only assume to be the slowly unfracturing psyche of Boba Fett.
One thing that's proving interesting about the Book of Boba Fett is the dual timelines, as Josh mentioned. It seems like a lot of the things we've discussed, like Spider-Man and The Matrix, are old or existing franchises relying upon their iconography, the elements that made their series famous and stand out as they are. And, this basically has all of that. You've gone and got Twi'leks, you've gone and got Tosche Station, you've gone and got Tusken Raiders and Jawas and Sandcrawlers and all this stuff that people recognise from Star Wars. But I think here it's doing it well by showing that this is an established universe with consistency and continuity. It's an integrated universe. There's diversity in regards to characters and species we see. It ties the comics into the movies, into the TV shows, into the video games. So it's a great framework, I think, for building this new story upon it. So before he reappeared in The Mandalorian last year, I was ready to write Boba Fett off as a character who was simply style over substance. He was something people had this idea of as this hardened badass, this cold, calculating bounty hunter. And that just wasn't really interesting to me. Something they did really well with The Mandalorian, the character played by Pedro Pascal, was that he had this humanity and this humility to him. anyone who's worn one of those Star Wars helmets knows they're a bit tricky to see out of. So you have this guy who's walking around with his vision impaired. Like, he shows up on this alien planet. He looks cool with his armor, but he just immediately gets attacked by this creature and has to be saved by one of the locals, which he's thankful for. It's that which endeared him to me. And obviously him caring for the character of the child, Baby Yoda. That's what set that character apart from Boba Fett for me. And the thing with Boba Fett in The Mandalorian and this series as well is by adding that humanity to him, that humility. Sure, he blows a ship out of the sky, but he kind of says, "Oh, I was aiming for the other one." It's that level of humanity. Oh, I keep saying that word, but yeah, it's those moments where you see him stumble and struggle as he's, shooting stormtroopers or he's climbing out. It makes those moments where he has those really cool character moments, like catching a gaffy stick being thrown at his head or hearing a guy 20 meters down the corridor while he's surrounded by all this noise, stand out and be a lot more impactful. Yeah, as Josh said, the effects are brilliant. I mean, The Mandalorian has been filmed on this digital soundstage called The Volume, which has all these LED screens, which allows for the seamless integration of backdrops and foregrounds in ways never before possible. Like, even rear projection is kind of, overshadowed by this. But the way they lit this as well really stood out to me. If this wasn't filmed in a real desert, gosh, I gotta say, I mean, it's incredible work if they did just do this on a soundstage. I did hear as well a comparison from the actors Ming-Na Wen and Temuera Morrison saying that this was very similar to the series Remington Steele, which had Pierce Brosnan sort of posing as the public face of this female private eye. And it kind of seems like it may be going this way, where Boba Fett maybe isn't as top of his game as we expect him to be, and Fennec Shand, played by Ming-Na Wen, is kind of taking that role and standing up for him. It's an interesting dynamic to see, and 6 more episodes. We'll be back to talk about it when those are all done. Another thing as well is that this series also features Jennifer Beals from Flashdance as one of the Twi'lek crime ladies, which, interesting to see her in a different role. And wow, I mean, all the actors in this are in their late 50s, early 60s, and God, they all look fantastic. I mean, Ming-Na Wen, geez. We're going to sign off today with the theme music to The Book of Boba Fett. This is composed by Ludwig Göransson, the composer of The Mandalorian. People have noted that there's a bit of a Polynesian influence to this, and yeah, check it out. This has been The Geeks Review. We'll be back next week. I'm Royce, and that was Joshua. See you next time. Bye for now.